Under the chapter of communication network topic, today we are going to see the part 2, that is continuation of router. Use of router, function, architecture and applications of routers. Uses of router. First, it uses multiple network connection, that it connects multiple network and forward the data packets to the attached network devices, and it can manage congestion. That means it manages the traffic between the network by forwarding the data packet to the designation address, and it also allows multiple addresses to use the same internet connections and provide the connectivity. That is, large router will interconnect the several ISP, that is internet service provider, while the small router provides the connectivity for home and office networks. Connecting subnets, that these routers will used for connecting the multiple logical groups of computer devices, that is subnets with the different networks. Next, it used for port forwarding, that is port forwarding among the private ISP providers, and it provides the traffic classification by QoS service. It takes a decision on which the packet should be first proceed, and it uses the DHCP protocol, that is dynamic host configuration protocol, that allow the IP address of each computer that joins to the network. Hence, this router also use many users for sharing the resources like fax, scanners, printers, folders located remotely. Functions of routers. First one is forwarding, that is it receives a packet from its input port and checks its header and performs some basic functions like checksum, and then by using the routing table it finds the appropriate output port and forward the packet to the output port. Next one is routing. Routing is the process that is used to find which is the best path for the packet to reach the destination. It maintains the routing table also, that is made useful by algorithm by the router only. NAT, Network Address Translation. This allows the device on the private network to access the internet using a single public IP address. Here it is used for translate between the different IP address ranges. Next one is security. This security, here the router is configured with the firewall and the other security features, that's to provide the network from unauthorized access, malwares or other threats. Next one is quality of services. We know that it is used to provide or avoid the network traffic. So this router can prioritize the network traffic based upon the data type that is being transferred from one port to next port. Next one is VPN, that is Virtual Private Network Connectivity. This allows the remote user to connect securely to the network using this VPN. Bandwidth management. By managing the bandwidth, it controls the amount of data that is allowed to flow in the network. Next, monitoring and diagnosing. By using this bandwidth management, they are configured to monitor the network traffic and provide the diagnosed information to the administrator for avoiding the network failure or other issues. So, by using the monitor and diagnosing, quickly we can identify and resolve the problem by the network administrator. This is the outlook of architecture of router, that input port, output port, switching fabric and routing process. Input port. This input port is the interface by which the packets are admitted into the router. It performs several functions like, first, it will terminate the physical layer at the router, that is by leftmost part, and the middle part will works on the interoperating with the link layer like a decapsulation or encapsulation, and the lastmost part of the input port is used for forwarding the table in lookup, and it is used to determine the approach to the output port based upon their designated addresses. Next one is the switching fabric. This is like a heart of the router, that is the central part. It connects the input port with the output port, and it is look like an network inside the networking device. It can be maintained or implemented in several ways, that is switching via memory, that is like a processor working, that is CPU working in a computer. That means a processor here which copies the packets from the input port and send it to the appropriate output port. That is, it works as traditional CPU with input and output port acting like an input and output devices. Here in switching via bus, this bus will collect all the input ports to the output ports. That is, Once it receives the packets, it determines which output port it must to be delivered. That time, this input port will attach a particular token to on that packet and transfer it on the bus. All the output ports can be see the packets, but it will be delivered to the output port whose token has been put in. Then this token has been subscribed off on the output port and the packet is forwarded. And the last one is switching via interconnecting network. Here they are using 2N bus to connect the N inputs to the N outputs. It is more sophisticated network compared to others. Output port. This output port is look like a segment from which the packets are transmitted out of the router. Here this output would look like an queuing buffer. We all know buffer is one of the storage type. Here what it will perform means when more than one packets has to be transferred through the same port, it will do the queuing buffers are formed. Once after that, it will finally transmit the packet to the outgoing link. Finally, routing processor. It executes the routing protocol like a traditional CPU. It uses some of the algorithms like link state algorithm or distance vector algorithm to prepare a forwarding table which lookups to determine the which route is best for the output port. Applications of router. Here the router use the hardware equipments with the remote locating networks like BSC, MGW, IN and SGNC, and it is also support a fast rate of data transmission because here they are using the high STM link for connectivity, that is both wireless and wired, and it is also have an internet service provider that is widely used a router to send the data from source and destination in the form of email, web pages, videos, voice, etc. And it will send the data all over the world with the help of an IP address of the destinations. This router is having the access restriction. That means it can allow few users to access all over the data, but for few users there is an only access to few types of data sets. And this router can be used by the software tester in the WAN communication platforms. For a wireless communication, this router here they are using the VPN configuration. So because of that, they act like a client server model for transferring the some of the informations in the form of videos, data or hardware resources, etc. Here this router is also having the inbuilt USB facilities in the modern time within the hardwares. So because of that, they have the enough internal storage capacity, and here the external storage device can be used with the router to store and share. And finally, this router can be used to set up the NOC centers, that is for maintaining and monitoring the organization in a protective way by using some link topologies to avoid some redundancies.